There's a new bill that has been proposed in the US Congress that aims to end the OPT, or the Optional Practical Training Program, which could put 300,000 or 3 lakh Indian students studying in the US right now at risk after they finish their course. So this is what is going on. Now, this program effectively applies to those students who are studying STEM, so science, technology, engineering, and mathematics in the US right now, from India and from anywhere else in the world. And they, under the OPT program, are allowed to stay in the US for up to 3 years working after their graduation, and this allows them to continue working and find a job and then transition quite easily into other visas. Now, the Congress is looking at a bill that might eliminate that OPT program altogether, and it effectively will put all of these students at risk of having to leave immediately after their courses are done. The OPT, like I said, allows them to stay in the US for 3 years after their graduation. Previous attempts have been made to remove this, but it has failed. But now, under the Donald Trump administration, where they're already looking at reducing the number of H-1B visas, they're looking at other sort of ways to reduce immigration into their country, this seems to be something they're considering as well. Now, the proposed bill casts an uncertainty into the future of more than 1 million international students, of which 300,000 are Indian. Just to give you some idea of this OPT program right now, basically international students who are studying in American universities will remain on their F1 student status while they work for an employer in the US. They basically apply for a post-completion OTP, which is up to 12 months if you have a degree in science, tech, engineering, and math. And then you can get an additional 2-year STEM extension for a total of 36 months of work training. Now, the Department of Homeland Security maintains a list of degree fields that qualify for that STEM extension. Now, with this OPT program, students who will basically are able to get work experience while staying on their student visas, and this helps them launch their careers in the US, especially given that engineering and STEM tends to be very expensive. Students tend to, especially in India, borrow student loans in rupees and then pay for the fees in dollars. And so working in the US allows them to pay back those loans faster. Now, over the last 1 decade, the number of students who have received OPT work authorizations have more than apparently doubled, altogether, even though the student population, the overseas student population, has only grown about 15%, which means that the number of students who are going to the US from all over the world to study STEM and science and technology has nearly doubled. After their F1 visa graduates, so after their F1 visa expires, I beg your pardon, graduates might look for an employer, and once they get that employer, they might transition into an H-1B visa. Now, what happens if this is actually cancelled? There is a limited number of H-1B visas that are available. So once a student graduates, to automatically jump to an H-1B visa will become very difficult. So from what we understand from data, only 25% of the H-1B visa applications were actually allotted in the last financial year, which means that for all companies, whether that is an Infosys or any other big company that's doing work in the US, there is a limited number of H-1B visas that they can hand out. The odds of them handing that out to someone who's just recently graduated with no work experience is far lower. And so this, optional program actually allowed them to transition that space. And so they will, they will have more difficulty now. This will also make it more difficult for them to get permanent residence in the US, because they've come in on an F1, which is a student visa, and then they want to transition to an H1B, and then there is a backlog before they can get a green card. So actually the journey from student to green card becomes much longer if this program is removed. Now, there's an interesting note also that we found about OPT. People who participate in OPT apparently are associated with higher earnings in the US because they're engineers and or they've studied mathematics, or they've studied basically courses that allow them to get high paying jobs. And they're also linked with lower unemployment for traditional Americans because they tend to create jobs around them. Apparently there's an estimate that the sectors that OPT workers normally work in are universities, educational institutions, healthcare providers like hospitals, doctors, manufacturing, banking, financial firms, and of course, tech companies. So they tend to not just make a lot of money when they start working, they also tend to create jobs around them. There's one estimate that says curbing OPT could actually result in the loss of about 400,000 jobs in the US over the next decade, including about half of those held by US born workers. So, by actually removing this program, you'll not just risk losing this talent, but you'll also risk contribution to your GDP and contribution to the jobs that these people could create in your country. So effectively, this is where we are right now. Remember, just yesterday we did a video about the fact that a growing number of colleges and universities are now reporting unexpected cancellations of student visas. This seems to be adding to that. There's one lawyer that's been quoted by the press, Purvi Chotani from LawQuest, which is an immigration law firm headquartered in Florida, who has said that OPT allows students to find jobs in the US for 1 year after they graduate and maybe extended for another 2 years, like I told you. So basically, she said the biggest fallout will be missing out on work opportunities, ability to earn a US salary for a couple of years to pay back hefty loans. The likelihood of OPT being scrapped will take a toll of Indian students. They are all likely to be clouded with doubt, said Adarsh Khandelwal, co-founder of Collegify, a study abroad program. We'll keep a close eye on this, but it does seem to be, a lot of quickly moving information coming out of the US.